Hello, everyone. I just wanted to check in for week two, talk about a little bit about what the idea is. I think the idea is obvious. I don't think that you need any guidance here. Obviously, we're talking about an issue in computer ethics, which is the advent of self-driving vehicles, autopilot, autonomous vehicles, whatever we want to call it. Exactly how and when this will all happen is a developing thing. I think that when I first identified this issue as something I wanted to talk about, it looked like it was just over the horizon. I think that the current sort of lull in the implementation of this might mean that we should reassess it. But I think it's something that we can reasonably anticipate to be a reality in the not so distant future, although there's plenty of technical things I'm sure that still need to be worked out. But the point is, I guess ethically, is that, well, I would say that keeping 2 points in mind. One is that if autopilot, if autonomous vehicles do become a reality, a widespread reality in the world, then that means that they need to be programmed in a certain way to respond to certain situations. And the question is really what approach should we take? I think that if the thing unfolds in the way that one might expect, that on the utilitarian side, if we're going by the idea of the greatest good for the greatest number, then there's no question that automated vehicles, self-driving vehicles, will be safer. They will, in the long run and overall, reduce accidents and so reduce human suffering. So I think from a utilitarian point of view, again, overall, there's no doubt that a consequentialist would say that it's a good thing and that we should implement it as soon as possible because it will reduce road accidents. At least that's my take on it. On the other hand, that's the overall thing. The reality is every accident involves different circumstances, it involves decisions that are made, and is an individual thing. And the Moral Machine Survey, I think, is a good way of reminding us of that. It may be a little artificial, I think, in some respects, some obvious respects, but it does force us to acknowledge that very difficult decisions would need to be made in individual cases. And the question is, how should we program these cars or these vehicles to respond in certain situations? And there, it's clear that we have a clash between utilitarianism and something like Kantianism. What should be the overriding value? Should it be the overall outcome in terms of lives saved, injuries avoided, or should it rest on the idea of the sanctity of the person? That is, that you cannot use a person as a means. Clearly, if we think about references to things like the trolley problem or Judith Jarvis Thompson's iteration of it, or with the railroad bridge, to get the overall best utilitarian outcome, we would need to violate the second categorical imperative. There's no question about it. So very difficult choices would need to be made about just what ethical approach we would take to programming these vehicles. So that's a problem, no doubt. And those choices are very difficult choices. And the kind of choices that we probably haven't been faced with before. But the other, I would say, problem is the whole idea of handing over ethical decision-making to an artificial intelligence. That fateful step. Human ethical decision-making is certainly sloppy and inconsistent and sometimes disastrous. There's no question about it. The kind of decisions that people do make in these difficult situations are oftentimes, probably wrong decisions and decisions that aren't very well thought out, even if they're not wrong. But they're human decisions. And it's the way that we've done it forever, is that we've left many things up to individual judgment in the situation. The step of actually handing that over to an artificial intelligence, where the artificial intelligence would make some kind of calculation, is a fateful step, and some would argue a step that we definitely do not want to make. Obviously, a utilitarian and a Kantian would have different ideas about the importance of this step. I would say if you're a pure consequentialist, then the significance of handing things over to an algorithm, which of course is an algorithm created by human beings, is not so great as long as we can calculate that the overall benefits would be on the plus side. On the other hand, if you're a Kantian, or if you believe in human rights, or you believe in the sanctity of life, or if you believe in the intrinsic value of the person, then there's something very wrong going on if we're sacrificing persons in order to achieve other ends, even if they are the saving of other persons. That is a moral line that we should never cross. So, yeah, it's a difficult issue and an extremely interesting one.